Hey, it's me, Mario, Newt's plumber. Listen to the podcast, and I fix the GM's plumbing.
The cult of personality. I know your anger. On this day, I see clearly everything has come to life. A better place in a broken dream.
And welcome everyone to the second edition of the EWA Podcast. It's in a little bit earlier than last week. I had to cash in on everyone's kind, good words and make sure that I could belt out a second one to let all of you down. And speaking of letting all of you down, our special guest this week will be sure to do that, especially after last week's guest was a man who went 15-1 or 16-1 last year in the EWA. But I digress. I am honored and a privilege of mine to have our guest host this week, JD, the man who handles Edge. JD, thank you for joining us on the EWA Podcast this week.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Not a problem. All right, we're going to touch on a lot of subjects here between the WWE, the EWA, and I think we're going to start out talking about JD first. JD, you had a lot of stuff going on, Kevin Steen and Val Venus, and then, there was Edge going through the things that Edge and Cody Rhodes did towards the end of 2012. But let's talk about Kevin Steen, because that's who's doing a lot of work right now. The King of Fury, let's talk about that. Well, what's going on with Kevin Steen and his King of Fury story right now?
Well, the plan was to have Kevin Steen and Val Venus kind of feud, and then Brett sort of threw in the whole... We actually had a storyline sort of bouncing ideas off of each other, and then he just sort of threw in the, you know what, I'm just going to put Val Venus away and kind of left me high and dry. But that's all right, because I didn't really have a plan with Kevin Steen when he sort of had him claim himself as the King of Fury. He just, I just didn't know what else to do with him, and I thought maybe if I kind of hijacked that show, then it would make Fury more interesting, I guess.
Now, did you base that off anything that's happened in wrestling programming that you saw growing up, or was this just something that kind of came to you and you're like, hey, that'd be kind of cool to name him King of Fury? And
yeah, it just sort of came to me. I guess that would be somewhat based off his Ring of Honor thing, after he won the title and claimed he was going to hold the company hostage or whatever. I guess then I looked at Fury and I was like, well, I'll just say that I'm the King of Fury, and I could just sort of saw Steen. In my mind, I saw Steen doing something like that in real life, so that's why I kind of ran with it.
And then this week on Slam, even through the process of struggling with Newt's plumbing, we saw Kevin Steen and Brian Kendrick set up for Fury this week with an over-the-top rope match to set them to prepare for Civil War. A lot of segments on Slam involving the Sublime Empire with Brian Kendrick talking to just about every member that was out there. I want to talk about that for a second. How does the Sublime Empire go about setting up joint segments like that?
Well, I don't know. I might be the wrong guy to ask about that, because I don't really set up too many of those segments.
How does the collaboration go? Do you guys use your own little private forum, or do you use Google Drive, or is it just sending messages back and forth?
Just sending messages back and forth through PM. I don't know if the other guys use any other programs, but yeah, just through the messages on EWA.
So the odds are good that there's a private forum for the Sublime Empire, and you're just not invited to it?
It's very possible.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry I told them about that, Dylan. That's my bad. Dylan and Dan, that forum does not exist. Let that be known. Let's talk about some more collaboration that you were a part of. with your victory over Cody Rhodes on the Slam, 2 slams before Super Brawl, you were named Super Brawl captain for one of the 4 teams. And I wanted to talk to you about what your thought process was with the selecting of your team. Like, what was going through your mind as you selected the members of Team Edge for Super Brawl?
Man, like, right after I beat Cody Rhodes and, like, came national champ and Super Brawl captain and everything, I just sort of, like, was like, all right, I did it. And then after that sort of passed, I was like, oh, crap. I actually have to captain a team. And I, rather than, like, draft a team to reflect any other storyline going on at the time, like I've seen some people do before me,
yeah.
I just tried to draft, like, the best team that I thought would help me win.
Yeah. And the members of your team were, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you had, what was that? Was that Steve Corino, Rene Dupree, and then you wound up with Vampiro? Is that right?
Well, I drafted Del Rio.
Right.
And Vampiro was
your alternate, right. So after Ed got dropped on his head, which is not a Dr. Seuss book, you had to put Vampiro into the match itself. And how did you guys go about your group role plays for Super Brawl?
I opened up a, like, different forum or whatever, like you brought up with, like, maybe some Blind Fire has, but we don't. And then from there we just sort of bounced ideas off of each other, where, like, what we wanted to do with our group role plays. Like, I had a couple ideas of what I wanted to do, and then I put it out there, and then let the guys say either, like, this is a good idea, I don't like this idea, or whatever.
Yeah.
And it all just sort of evolved from there.
Righto. And so how long... This was your first foray as a captain in Super Brawl, is that correct?
Yes. It was my first Super Brawl participation of any kind.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was not aware of that. I thought you had been around the EWA for a while. Is that correct?
A couple years now. I mean, I guess coming up is Civil War, and this would be my 3rd Civil War. But the year before this past Super Brawl, I was Triple H. I was handling Triple H and Edge, and both of those guys were kind of up there in terms of the Super Brawl series. So then I had to, like, sort of take Edge and give him a fake injury, so I wasn't, like, handling 2 guys up there. And then Triple H ended up losing the Super Brawl series. I think Del Rio ended up winning it, but Triple H was also the Iron Man champion at the time, so he had to get drafted one way or the other. And it was actually just bad timing on my part, just because I was working full time and I was going to school at the same time, and finals were coming up that week, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be able to participate as well as I'd want to, and as well as, like, the captain would be expecting of me, so I just sort of dropped the title to Mike Knox and let him pick my spot in Super Brawl. So this past Super Brawl was my first one.
Now, Edge has been kind of laying a low profile since Super Brawl. Should we expect a return anytime soon, or are you going to come on this show and say that Edge is indefinitely retired and try and one-up Brett's thunder from last week, or like, what's the deal with Edge? We haven't seen him in a while, bud.
Yeah, after Super Brawl, I was sort of pondering where to take Edge from there. I had thought about, going after Cody Rhodes, because he's got the national title, which Edge lost at Super Brawl, and I thought about maybe having him want to get that back. This past Slam, Edge and Blackman made claims to their plans to team up together and go after the tag belts. So
that seems to be a popular move these days.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting stuff. Well, let's switch gears. Let's talk about the WWE. This is being recorded on a Tuesday. So last night, I think it's fair to say, a pretty lackluster Raw. No John Cena, no Rock, We had to sit through the Del Rio Jack Swagger mocking skit again. The Paul Bearer tribute. Let's talk about the concept of CM Punk interrupting the Paul Bearer tribute. And I understand what WWE has been trying to do. The King comes back from his heart attack. CM Punk interrupts it. Now we have this. And there's just a litany of things where CM Punk is just being a dick for these things that are not to be taken lightly in wrestling storylines. You know what I mean? Like it's like what are your thoughts on how that was handled last night?
Honestly, I liked it. I mean,
right?
Like CM Punk kind of interrupting Undertaker at the beginning, that was kind of surprising, but at the same time kind of not surprising, you know what I mean? But at the same time, what they're doing with that feud, I think it's made me more interested in it. And
right.
As much as maybe it sounds bad to say it, but it's almost like Paul Bearer dying made the feud more interesting.
Oh yeah, and there's no doubt about that. That's just how things work when it comes to the WWE. They're not going to look this gift horse in the mouth, and if they think they can use this to help enhance buy rates, ratings, heat, anything, I feel like they're going to do it. There's nothing they wouldn't shy away from, as was evidence from Lawler coming back from the heart attack.
Yeah, but if they try to go a humor route like they did with Lawler, then it's going to get ruined. If they try to wheel Heyman out in a casket, and Heyman's all dressed like Paul Bearer or something, he comes out and they think they're funny about it, then it's going to be stupid. Kind of like with the Jack Swagger and Del Rio kind of mockings, with their humor route that they try to go. I thought it was dumb, it was bad taste.
Then we have Fandango. Am I saying that right? Is he going to come on here?
Probably.
Fandango is having more problems right now than Newt's Plumbing, as it pertains to getting in a match on Raw or SmackDown. Are they doing the right thing with Johnny Curtis here, with this gimmick and the way they're going about this, do you think?
I don't think they've done the right thing with Johnny Curtis since he's been in NXT.
True.
They should have called up Johnny Curtis and Maxine a long time ago. They could have gave him whatever push or momentum that they had, but now they're just sort of I feel bad for him almost. They slapped their Fandango gimmick on him, and I don't know. They're just making him look really, really stale and boring, coming on each week and not really expecting a match from him. I don't know. It's getting really tiresome really fast.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. The crowd can only take so much. The WWE universe can only take so much of this whole spiel before they pretty much get tired of it. And they had a chance last night to once again make both people look good. They had a chance to make Fandango look good, and they had a chance to make Tensai look good with the whole match, but then they chose to just squander that for making Fandango not want to come out or anything like that. All right, let's switch gears here. Let's talk about the EWA this week. Pretty low key slam. I say that ironically, with Low Key and Brad Maddox's match being on there with Cody Rhodes as the ref. Maddox goes over and gets the win, so we'll see what happens from there. Also, we had Bully Ray beating Jake Roberts. We had the Coalition, as they're called now, beating the BWO. And we also had Chris Daniels over Seth Rollins, with Heath Slater over Raven, and Adam Cole over Bray Wyatt. Does anything kind of jump out to you here from these results at all?
Not really. I mean, when did Rock and Carino become Coalition? I don't
know. That might just be a name that Newt gave him. And he's like, I'm tired of typing Rock Carino.
I thought they were going to be old school Rock fans.
I did too, but maybe they ran into some copyright problems. I'm not sure.
Of course.
But apparently the BWO can't run into that, but old school Rock can. What else did we have go on here this week? I'm trying to take a look at the results here. We had the interaction between Punk and Kurt Angle, where it looks at the end where, yeah, I think we know where this is going. I hate saying that.
Yeah, that's sort of what I thought was going to end up happening.
Which, not to say it's a bad thing. It's very well thought out, and they're doing a great job with it.
Definitely.
And yeah, they're definitely doing more with it than probably anyone else would in their position. It's a very well thought out story.
Very creative.
Indeed, very very creative. Let's kind of like we did last week. Let's talk about some of these newer members of the roster. We had Taz make another appearance on Slam this week.
Yeah, where did he
as
come?
well? Yeah, I don't know. It's when these people come in and they don't have applications, it's someone else in the Fed. You just don't know who,
Steve,
so,
Ed, those are always the top two number one suspects, I think.
That's what you have to assume. You have to assume it's Steve. So Steve's Taz character is coming in, and he's doing pretty well so far. He's come out, he's called out some people, and then there's also Mark Henry, who somebody about to get their ass licked. Am I saying that right?
Ass licked? Hey, whatever floats your boat, man.
I've not really listened to his music, to be honest, so I'm not sure if that's what it says. Steve's Mark Henry character, also doing very well. I look forward to the pay-per-view match between Steve's Mark Henry and Steve's Taz. Because it seems like these two guys have been kind of just like little wrecking balls right now, destined to face one another. And I think that's good.
No,
so
if Steve's building up a Mark Henry, Gregory Irons kind of match, I think that'll be pretty interesting to see how that plays out.
No, that definitely has some throwbacks to some instances of David versus Goliath in the past.
Zach Gowen and Big Show.
Yeah. You think of things like that and others. So. Last week, handed out some DAP to some young up-and-comers, including Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins and Adam Cole. Failed to mention Bray Wyatt, whose role plays have been really, really good. Have you got a chance to read any of his yet? Or are you familiar with the Bray Wyatt NXT character at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, he's doing an amazingly good job at portraying that character. And while some people value individuality and originality over replicating the real thing, I think if you can come in and replicate a character like Bray Wyatt, there's a lot of depth there, and you can do a lot of positive stuff with that.
Like Bray Wyatt's got his image kind of like on lockdown, but he's still somewhat of a new character, so you can like still take the image of him and go wherever you want with it. Really.
Right.
Like as far as I know, like EWA's Bray Wyatt hasn't adopted anyone to follow him, so, and I don't know if he will.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure.
Well, it's hard to come in and create, unless you're the army of followers yourself. It's hard to get that get the people to come into the fold with you. Do you have any instances whenever you first joined where you had some struggles getting going in the EWA?
Sort of. I guess when I first joined, I didn't really have any storylines planned.
Mm-hmm.
In my first match, I lost. And I know how like a lot of new people kind of like, I lost my first match, never mind. I don't want to be a part of this group anymore.
Yeah.
I ruined whatever momentum I had. But those people are idiots, I think.
Yeah. And I think Newt likes to test people whenever they come in, and I think you could throw up the greatest role play ever written, like you could just throw up a novel of beautiful, magnificent words, and I think he would have you still lose your first match just to test your mettle and see why you've joined the EWA. You know what I mean? Like, I think that he wants to bend these people but not break them whenever they join, to see how they're going to react to losses, even if they think their stuff's amazing.
I never thought of it like that. That's interesting.
I'm not saying that he did that to me or anyone else, but I think that, like, and you see that people come in and they get all pissed off because they lose their first match, and they're like,
oh, yeah.
You can tell they're angry, so.
Who was that did that recently? There was someone, I swear, and he was just like, I don't understand why I lost, and then everyone gave him constructive criticism, and then he took it personally. Oh.
I think that could have been just about anyone.
Could have been. I don't know.
All right, so we're going to play a little game now. Last week it was Penis and Uranus. This one's called it's called Wrestling Word Association.
Oh, God.
It's Wrestling Word Association. Sorry, low budget. So are you ready for this? This is Wrestling Word Association. I'm going to give you a word, and pretty much you're just going to tell me the first thing that pops into your head whenever you hear that. Now, it could go down the lines of WWE, EWA, or some other fed you've been in, or Nintendo 64, or you could just talk about tacos and burritos if you want, all right?
Awesome.
So I'm gonna give you a name or a word, and then we're going to go down that route, okay?
Okay.
Your first word is El Generico.
His mask.
Think about his mask initially, and more like his lack of mask these days, right?
Yeah, it's a big question mark above it. It's like his mask with a question mark slapped right on top of it.
Yeah.
So they're not
So you think his mask? That's how you say it in your head, I guess? His mask?
But if they get,
all right.
if they get rid of his mask, I think they might get rid of his name, too. They might change his name.
Yeah, just to his regular name. I think that's kind of the NXT MO, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't think I know what MO stands for. Do you know what MO stands for?
Mission Objective?
Alright, I don't think I used that right then. Alright, next word. National Championship.
Cody, I guess.
Alright, well, this has been a great interview, and that's a great way to end it.
True.
No, I'm just kidding. Next word. CM Punk.
It's easy. I mean, because I'm just thinking EWA right now, but yeah, like I think I came into EWA like right before, or right after TV disappeared, and then I was here when John picked them up for a little bit, but now TZC and Punk is back, and it's probably one of the better things I've read recently. His role plays, I think, it's like pretty. I don't know, almost motivational to like role play and stuff. To be like, I don't know, his quality of work I'm a big fan of.
Yes, he does an amazing job. I could not agree more. That's very true. Next word is Super Brawl.
Vegas Connection. Those bastards.
Yeah. What went through your head when you read Val Venus pin Kurt Angle?
I don't know. Like, I thought it could have gone either way, honestly. But I mean, I don't want to offend anyone here, but my alcohol doesn't care if I do right now, so I'll just go ahead and say this. I was kind of disappointed. I wanted to see Bryce get there, just because, not because I thought Bryce did a better job than Brett or his team was better or anything. I just got this sort of, I just want to see someone else hold the tag titles. I'm just sort of tired of Nash and Page holding those tag titles. Like last year, when I was Edge and Steen and I was feuding with them, it was like they were the most frustrating matches that I've had, because I wanted to beat them, and I wanted to beat them real bad, and I started blending in like EWA with reality because I read their role plays, and they're good guys, but they're like smug, cocky good guys. And like I sort of like blended that in with reality. I'd be like, these two douchebags, I probably really like this in real life, and I was just like, oh, I really want to beat them, and then it just
No, that's amazing stuff, and I I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I understand that I have to kind of kiss everybody's asses so I can get them onto the podcast, you know. But like, how do we not take things personal when they're role playing right against us? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard not to take the role plays personally because it's literally 1 versus 1 at that point, you know. Like, they're pointing out character flaws, they're pointing out why they're better, they're pointing out why you suck. How do you not take that personal?
I know, and the fact that last year when I was using Edge and Steen against Nash and Page, it was like, I thought that would have been like the biggest notch in my belt thus far, because just beating those two by myself, like, it seems very difficult. I mean, there was one pay-per-view where I thought I had him beat, and I got my hopes up so high, and then I ended up losing, and I just was like, oh my god, this is awful. I don't think I'll ever beat them, and just sort of like knock them down a peg, which was my mission, was due to them.
Yeah, and I think once you like read the results, you're disappointed for a while, and then you look at it and you're like, man, I shouldn't have taken it that personally, you know?
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
You get the email from your opponent, and they're like, hey man, great match, you know, like great stuff this week. It could have went either way, and you're like, oh, these guys aren't dicks at all, you know? Like they're just like me and you. They're just writing for a character.
Yeah, ever since then, when I faced them and got my hopes up so high, I was like, okay, I need to remind myself never to do that ever again. But I think I did. The most recent one was when the Steen and Val Venis Fury match. Like, I didn't really expect to win. I didn't, really.
Right.
Because the pay-per-view was 2 days away, and that would have been a big-ass headache for Newt and everything. But once I got the unsolicited, like, feedback from Dan and Bryce, I was like, oh, man. My mind started going, like, what if? Like, what if?
Yeah.
Like, Steen ended up beating Venis? Like, what would happen? And my mind just sort of went doing all sorts of scenarios with it.
I think it's amazingly refreshing, at least for me, to hear that people kind of think like I do during match week sometimes. You know, this is, I don't like calling it a game. I know Brett called it a game last week. This is more of like, you know, this is kind of just recreation type hobby stuff, you know, but it's competition.
Oh yeah.
And it's not so much a writing competition. It's just kind of, you know, I don't know. It's so hard to define.
Yeah. Well,
you know, but
how I defined it to my girlfriend, actually, like I have to go home and I have to write something, and she's like, "What are you writing for?" And wrestling's sort of like my guilty pleasure. Like, there's only like one person in my life that actually knows I still follow wrestling somewhat. And my girlfriend was like, "What do you have to write for?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a competitive creative writing thing that I do online." She's like, okay. And I'm just like, yeah, don't worry about it.
Let me tell you something. You find a woman who will stick with you through the EWA, and you found yourself a soulmate. I'm breaking hearts right and left because they don't understand. Once the girl, there needs to be just like a way for women to come in and just pick from the pick of the litter.
Yeah, it's so hard.
And then I just beat them off with a stick after that, you know what I'm saying?
Of course. But it's sort of hard to describe EWA to someone who has no idea what it's even based off of.
Oh, no, like just the concept of explaining E-Feds to people that don't know about E-Feds is so difficult to do.
Exactly.
If there was a good way to do it, then we'd all just like subconsciously not worry about it and tell our friends, be like, well, it's this competitive writing contest that involves using wrestling characters. And when you
shit.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. That's what I tell people. I'm like, you go in and you talk shit.
Yeah.
And you try and talk the best shit.
If someone could go ahead and write like a quick summary so I can print it out on a little business card and hand it out to people, that'd be great.
JD, handler of Edge Kevin Steen, amateur shit talker, 2-time national champion.
1-time national champion.
1-time national champion.
One-time Iron.
You better not take me on again because I don't want you to have to remake your business cards, okay? JD, it's been an extreme pleasure. I've loved having you on. Like I said, it's very refreshing to hear someone has the same mindset as me whenever I go into it. Sometimes I feel like I get a little too into it and a little too intense, but it's been a blast having you on. I appreciate you messaged me out and said that you'd like to come on and join me, and I really appreciate that. And I hope I hope the EWA universe has enjoyed this podcast and someone else takes the next step and comes out to join me.
I hope so. I don't regret it at all.
All right. Until
I hear my voice, and I'll be like, oh, fuck, I sound like that?
That's right. Hey, I'll beep out that cuss word, okay?
Okay, my bad.
All right, JD, take it easy. This was a blast. Have a good one, bud.
You too, bud.